All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here this morning. My name is Glenn Cummings. I'm a lieutenant with the Clarkstown Police Department, and we'll be officiating the ceremony today. So, this is our 2018 award ceremony. Okay. Here to recognize officers who've done acts in their discharge of their duties, which are either heroic or beyond the scope normally expected of an officer. Obviously, this doesn't represent all of the actions of our officers for the year, but these are just some of the ones that we particularly feel stand out in terms of their noteworthiness and recognition for their conduct. At this point, I'd like to introduce the Clarkstown Police Honor Guard, who will be presenting the colors at this time. So, if everyone would please direct their attention to the Honor Guard as they enter the room for the presentation of the colors.
Stand by. Colors. Hut 10. Colors. Court. Heart. Colors. Outward. Heart. Colors. Mark time. March.
At this time, we'll ask Chief McCullough to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Colors. Present. Heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colors. Court. Heart.
I'd like to introduce now Reverend Lothrop for his invocation.
Let us pray. Let us take a moment to remember all our officers in law enforcement, those in our military who have paid the ultimate price for the freedoms that we so richly enjoy. Let us remember also this morning the victims of the mass shootings in our country. It's our prayer that this violence will finally cease. Oh God, how thankful we are to be blessed with men and women who dedicate their lives in order that we may continue to share the freedoms that we so richly enjoy. We are truly thankful for the talents of those and their accomplishments. Today, with gratitude in our hearts, we come to recognize those individuals in law enforcement and civilian who have gone beyond the call of duty. Through their achievements and their heroic acts, they have brought great credit upon themselves, this department, this community, and especially to their families. May their accomplishments spur us on to meet new challenges. May this ceremony be a reminder to us all that excellence in life takes time and effort and always involves going the second mile. May the honors that we bestow upon these honorees challenge each of us to serve the cause of freedom with renewed commitment. This morning, we are also pleased to recognize the achievements of our young men and women. It is a great privilege to honor them with their scholarships. May they continue to become enlightened and prepared to lead in the future. We now take a moment to remember those retired members of our department who have left us way too early. Especially we remember today Detective Fred Parent. We say to his family, thank you for letting us be recipients of his dedication and friendship. For Fred and those retired who have gone to their final resting place will truly live in our hearts and our lives forever. It's now our prayer that they will continually rest in peace. And now, O God, may thy blessing be upon all of us as this ceremony continues, for we ask it in thy name. Amen.
Please remain standing while the colors are retired by the Honor Guard.
Colors. Right. Hey.
may all be seated. So just before we start the ceremony, I just want to acknowledge some of the dignitaries and people that are here today. First, Chief McCullough, town board members, Pete Bradley, Pat Carroll, Town Supervisor George Homan, Clarkstown Town Justice Howard Gerber, County Legislators Chris Carey, Lon Hofstein, retired Clarkstown Chief Peter Noonan, Clarkstown Town Justice Justin Sweet, and although not here yet, expected to be here, County Supervisor Executive Ed Day and Legislator Harriet Cornell. Although in your program reflects that the Chief and Mr. Homan will be giving their remarks later on in the program, that was a misprint. So I'd just like to introduce Chief McCullough for his opening remarks, followed by Supervisor Homan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this year's Clarkstown Police Department Awards Ceremony. I stand before you here today as the Chief of Police of the finest police department in the country. For the past 30 years, I've had the honor of being part of a group of police officers who come in every day and look to improve this great community by enforcing the law, assisting the public, and most importantly, cultivating a sense of community. Today, I've been blessed with the opportunity of honoring these great officers. We gather here this morning to recognize the accomplishments of officers who have gone above and beyond, and nothing makes me happier than being able to say to an officer, "You've done a fantastic job, now stand up and be recognized." And later in the program, we'll be honoring Detective Frederick Parent as our 2017 Officer of the Year. As you know, Freddie passed away last November after a debilitating illness took him from us far too early. And we came together then as a department and helped him and his family through the time in the hospital, and then tragically, we helped his family through the process of placing Freddie in his final resting place. Freddie Parent is someone who has left a lasting mark on this department with his awesome attitude, his colorful take on situations, and his dogged investigative style that helped solve so many cases. The most lasting mark that Freddie leaves is his unselfish devotion to mankind. Freddie donated his organs and in turn saved further lives. After this morning's award ceremony, we're going to walk across the street and participate in the Rockland County Police Memorial. We'll gather to pay our respects to those officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice for their respective communities. Earlier this week, members of the Clarkstown Police Honor Guard had the honor of presenting the colors at the National Emerald Society Police Memorial in Washington, D.C., where 394 officers were honored and had their names engraved onto the memorial wall. We can never lose sight of the fact that this is a dangerous business, and we need to ensure that we recognize officers and their families for the sacrifices they make every day to protect our community. Now, far too often we hear of stories of police brutality and police misconduct, but more often than not, these claims are baseless, but the damage has been done to the law enforcement community. It becomes increasingly more difficult to be a police officer when we ask our personnel to be lawyers, therapists, nurses, plumbers, auto mechanics, and mental health specialists. The weight put upon officers today in the United States is great, but thankfully the town board, the police administration, and the Clarkstown community stand unified with our police department. So please join me in thanking these fine officers for their outstanding achievements. Thank you very much, and I'm going to call up Supervisor George Homan.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. In October of 1962, Congress passed a resolution, and President Kennedy signed into law, designating the week in which May 15 falls as National Police Week. During this week,
police departments around the country gather and recognize the efforts of their officers, and importantly, commemorate the fallen. Building upon that designation, our country realized that it was not just enough to recognize the police, but to create a memorial that honors those that have died in the line of duty. In 1991, the National Police Memorial opened in Washington, D.C. at Judiciary Square with the names of officers and law enforcement members who died in the line of duty since 1791. Every year, more names are added. As of this year, over 21,000 names adorn the walls and grounds of that important memorial. While it is likely not as famous or regrettably as visited a memorial as others in Washington, it is incredibly important and a very important place as it holds the names of everyday heroes who died in the line of duty. Every spring, new names are added. Last year alone, 129 sworn officers died in our country in the line of duty, and their names are added. Each and every name is a life cut short in service to others. This year, already 55 officers have died in the line of duty across our country, and unfortunately, we know that there will be others. As I said, every year more names are added, each name a life cut short in service to others. President Abraham Lincoln best summarized the importance of remembering those who died in the line of duty and what true sacrifice really means. Speaking at Gettysburg, Lincoln offered two specific thoughts. First, that we, the living, must be dedicated to the unfinished work that they died for. And second, that we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. By gathering here today, and later on across the street at the county, we are doing just that. We are recognizing the work of these sworn officers, and by their work, they're recognizing all those who have fallen. So today we do two things. We pause and recognize the service and sacrifice and professionalism of the men and women of the Clarkstown Police Department. We celebrate our officers and recognize just how much a difference they have made and continue to make in our community. Respond to the calls, not knowing what they will encounter, and having to react daily, shift by shift, to the unknown. While fortunately we are not here adding names of fallen from our department to a memorial wall, but we are stopping and recognizing the exceptionalism of our police. We see it firsthand each and every day, from the mundane tasks of paperwork to traffic enforcement to solving frauds and saving lives and just about everything else in between. We are an exceptional community for a lot of reasons, but having an exceptional police department is on the top of the list that makes Clarkstown so great. I thank each and every one of our officers, dispatchers, and staff for your service. On behalf of myself and the town board and the people of Clarkstown, I express our deep gratitude to our wonderful police for all that you do in keeping us safe. Thank you, Chief McCullough and your command staff and the men and women of the Clarkstown Police Force on a job well done. We recognize the sacrifice that you all make, and we thank you, and we thank your families, some of whom are here today, for sharing you with us. We thank them and you, and we understand the many missed holidays and birthdays that you experienced, the power outages that you endured while your husbands, wives, sons, daughters, moms, and dads were working on the job, putting themselves in harm's way. We are grateful not only to them, but to the families, and we thank you. Before I conclude, we must do one other thing. The entire reason for Police Week. We must pause and recall the fallen. Incredibly, this year alone, we've had 55 officers killed in the line of duty across this country. These heroes whose names will be added next year to the memorial in D.C. For these, the end of watch came early and too soon, and we are duty-bound to honor them. Along with these, we also recall those men and women of our own department who retired, who have passed away, especially Detective Parent, since last Police Week. While their names will not be etched in stone in Washington, they are written forever in our hearts. We thank God for their service and for their memory. I ask that everyone please stand for a moment of silence. May these and all who have died rest in peace. Thank you.
To direct your attention to the programs now, we will have the presentation of the awards to be conducted by Chief McCullough, and he will be assisted by Detective Lieutenant Glenn Dietrich and Administrative Lieutenant Jeff Wanamaker, along with members of the town board. Our first award will be given to Jason Manzella and Officer George Mendez. This award is for meritorious police second conduct. The Meritorious Police Service Second Award should be awarded to any member of this department who, in the line of duty, performs an outstanding act which demonstrates exceptional initiative or unusual dedication and brings public or professional claim to themselves and to the department. In July of 2017, Officers Manzella and Mendez initiated a narcotics investigation into an ongoing cocaine distribution operation in the Hudson Valley. The officers had developed information that the drugs were being sold mostly out of bars and restaurants in the village of Nyack, here in Rockland County. The officers were determined to discover the source supplier and the resellers within that network. Utilizing numerous investigative tools, including search warrants, wiretaps, and the like, all the main players in the drug operation were identified, and this 9-month investigation led to the arrest of 11 people who were indicted by the Rockland County Grand Jury on 34 separate felony charges. So for their actions, I congratulate Officers Manzella and George Mendez. Our next award will be for Excellent Police Service. The Excellent Police Service Award shall be awarded to any member of this department who, in the line of duty, performs an act which brings claim to themselves and to the department, and it will be presented to Detective Brian Callanan and Detective Rob McDonald, who is also leading the honor guard here today, as he always does. So if they wouldn't mind stepping up. On April 29, 2017, Detectives McDonald and Callanan were called in to investigate a commercial burglary at the Central Nyack Cleaners. The detectives were able to connect this burglary to a recent burglary at the Rockland Auto Mall, which involved the theft of a brand new Mercedes-Benz. At the scene, a vehicle previously stolen out of Major Auto World in Queens, New York, was recovered. Detectives Callanan and McDonald coordinated their efforts with Orangetown Police Department, the Rockland County Sheriff's Department, as well as the New York City Police Department. It was determined that the same actor had committed 2 burglaries in Clarkstown, 3 burglaries in the town of Orangetown, and numerous commercial burglaries in New York City and the surrounding areas. The actions of these detectives resulted in career criminal being charged with a string of crimes, including major felonies, the solving of numerous open cases, and the recovery of several stolen vehicles. For their work, they deserve to be recognized. Congratulations. The next Excellent Police Service Award will be awarded to Officer Patrick Tobin. Here today? All right, Officer Tobin could not be here with us today, but on January 1st, 2017, at 7:15 a.m., Officer Tobin was dispatched to a report of a smoke alarm at the Clarksville Inn in West Nyack, New York. Upon arrival, Officer Tobin observed the heavy smoke condition coming from the building, and further investigation revealed a working fire in the kitchen of the restaurant premises located therein. Officer Tobin observed that none of the residents had yet exited the building in the apartments upstairs and decided to make entry. Despite the heavy smoke condition, he began to go to the apartments and warn the residents of the fire. Officer Tobin located and alerted 7 residents for immediate evacuation, conducting an act of fearlessness in the act of his discharge of his duties. For that, he deserves recognition. The next Excellent Police Service is also being awarded to Officer Tobin, who again could not be here with us today. On December 22nd, 2017, the police department received a 911 call reporting a disorderly male party armed with a knife in the lobby of the Candlewood Suites in Nanuet. Upon arrival, officers learned that an employee had been cut by the suspect with the knife. It was quickly determined that the suspect had fled out of the building. Officers spotted the suspect in the rear of the parking lot. Officer Tobin, along with an assisting Spring Valley officer, were able to subdue the subject with a taser after the subject failed to follow verbal commands. A taser was successfully deployed, which incapacitated the suspect and allowed the officer to take the suspect into custody without causing further injury to the suspect or to the officers. Congratulations, Officer Tobin. The next award for excellent police service will be for Detective Dawn Fantini, if she would step up. On December 16, 2017, the Clarkstown Police Department received a call from a woman who stated she had been sexually assaulted several days ago and who didn't initially contact the police department because she was in fear of the attacker who was known to her. Detective Fantini met the victim at Nyack Hospital and began her investigation. She was able to determine that the assault had occurred, although the victim stated she'd been driven somewhere in the state of New York, but she wasn't exactly sure. The victim stated she could have been 2 hours away, but she wasn't quite sure again, but Detective Fantini's diligence led to furthering the investigation. They were able to determine where it occurred. Detective Fantini conducted various computer searches with this limited information and was able to find a connection between the suspect and several upstate locations. She researched each location and located a possible crime scene at an address over 80 miles from the town of Clarkstown. Detective Fantini contacted New York State Police and determined the exact location to be a cabin 1/2 mile off of the main roadway in a heavily wooded area in Parksville, New York. The investigation resulted in New York State Police arresting the suspect on felony charges of criminal sexual act, 1st degree. Congratulations, Detective Fantini. The next award for excellent police service will have 4 nominees: Sergeant John Hanchar, Officer Michael Feltham, P.O. Raymond Lachette, who I don't believe is here, and Officer Thomas Rolston. On September 18, 2017, the Clarkstown Police Department received a 911 call from a female victim who reported that she and her boyfriend had just been stabbed in her residence in New City. Responding officers discovered a male victim with life-threatening injuries as well as the injured female victim. After a tactical search of the premises, officers were able to determine that the suspect had fled the scene and began to administer first aid to the victims, saving their lives. Initial interviews of the victims were conducted and the suspect was determined to be a female victim's ex-boyfriend. Clarkstown officers immediately responded to Mount Ivy and were able to find the suspect hiding near his residence. An arrest was made and the suspect was charged with numerous crimes, including attempted murder. Thanks to the efforts of these officers, the serious crime was quickly solved and a dangerous, violent felon was brought to justice. Congratulations. Next award for excellent police service will be awarded to Officers Kevin Thurston and Officer Timothy Woolley. On April 6, 2017, at approximately 9:30 p.m., the Clarkstown Police received a 911 call from a woman who reported that she was home alone and thought she had heard a window break, possibly in her basement. Officers Thurston and Woolley responded and found that the basement window was, in fact, damaged. A check of the adjacent houses also showed damage consistent with what attempted entries or attempted burglaries at those particular residences. The officers searched the surrounding areas and found 2 suspects hiding nearby. Both subjects were arrested and charged with the attempted burglaries of multiple residents and criminal mischief and possession of burglar tools. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Next award for excellent police service is awarded to Officer Joseph Calvano. On July 27, 2017, at approximately 1:15 a.m., Officer Calvano was on routine patrol conducting an area check of Hemlock Drive, Congress, due to a previous burglary in the area, as well as other burglaries of commercial premises around the Congress locations. Officer Calvano did observe 4 individuals inside a commercial building in the area, and upon seeing the police vehicle, they began to flee. Officer Calvano exited his vehicle and pursued the individuals on foot. While in pursuit, Officer Calvano injured his arm and both knees, but continued after the parties. Officer Calvano was able to catch up with the individuals and order them to halt, at which time they complied and were taken into custody. As a result of P.L. Calvano's actions, a crime in progress had been interrupted, and suspects in numerous burglaries were arrested. Congratulations, Shell. The Life Saving Award, which will be awarded to Officers Corey Doyle and Greg Suarez. The criteria for the Life Saving Award shall be awarded to any member of this department who, in the line of duty, performs an act which directly results in the saving of a life. On August 13, 2017, at approximately 5:11 p.m., officers responded to a residence in Valley Cottage for the report of a medical emergency. Upon arrival at the scene, Officer Suarez observed the man having difficulty breathing and administered oxygen. The male then underwent the cardiac arrest, wasn't breathing, and had no pulse. Officer Corey Doyle had arrived on scene, and both officers administered CPR while applying a defibrillator. 3 AED shocks were given to the aiding, resulted in a pulse and restored breathing to the party. Paramedics and Congress Valley Cottage ambulance arrived on scene and continued medical treatment. The male party was transported to Nyack Hospital, where he continued his recovery, and he's alive today and has these officers to thank. Congratulations. This concludes the regular awards for the officers. At this time, though, we will have a special award for Officer of the Year, which will be administered by Chief McCullough and Detective Lieutenant Glenn Dietrich, which will honor the career and the work of Detective Parent.
Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to read about Freddie right now. His family's here with us, and on November 13th, 2017, Clarkstown Police Department lost one of our most dedicated officers. Fred Parent was a veteran detective who began his career with the Clarkstown Police Department as a dispatcher. Fred took the police exam and became a police officer in 1996. Fred served in patrol for 9 years and was promoted to detective in 2005. Through hard work and dedication to duty, he became an expert in investigating credit card and internet frauds. He was often called on as an expert witness, not only in cases in Clarkstown, but throughout the region. Fred was always willing to take on the toughest cases, including several cold case homicides, where his focus was always remained getting justice for the victims. What was most impressive to me is that Fred was always a team player. He was never one to promote himself in any way or be in the limelight. It was always about doing the right thing for the victims and arresting those responsible for their crimes. Fred was many things outside of CPD. He was a longtime volunteer, firefighter, fire chief, and fire commissioner for the Nanuet Fire Department. He loved playing the bagpipes and was a pipe major of the Rockland County Emerald Society Pipes and Drums, who are here today with us. Most of all, he was a loving husband to his wife, Leona, and a loving father to his children, Freddie, James, and Briley. As Fred's supervisor, I know all too well what an outstanding and dedicated professional he was. He was truly missed by all who knew him, and today I'm honored to present the Officer of the Year to Fred's family. And at this time, I'd like his wife, Leona, to come up, his son, Fred Jr., son, James, and his daughter, Briley. Please come forward.
Stand up here. No, stand up here, sir.
They're right there.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite Clarkstown PBA Treasurer Scott Rios for presentation of scholarship awards to young recipients. What's up, Scott?
Each year, the Clarkstown Policemen's Benevolent Association is proud to honor the memory of past Police Chief of Police G. Robert Schnackenberg by awarding a scholarship in his name to a graduating high school senior from our community. Chief Schnackenberg was a man of great character, dedicated to family, community, and country. His service and dedication to the people of Clarkstown set a high standard. Today, PBA members are committed to continuing that high standard of service and dedication to the people of this town. This year's scholarship recipient embodies Chief Schnackenberg's commitment to improving our community through service to others. She overcame her share of adversity throughout her life, including the prolonged illness of her father, who was raising her and her siblings as a single parent. She had to balance her obligations to school, extracurricular activities, and her family. Through her father's illness, she found solace in volunteering at Good Samaritan Hospital. She also volunteered with Youth for Hospice and was a Girl Scout ambassador. She did all this while maintaining her studies, which is reflected in her 96.24 grade average and her induction into multiple honor societies at Clarkstown High School South. On behalf of the Clarkstown PBA, I am proud to present this year's Schnackenberg Scholarship to Tara Pataletti. Again this year, the PBA, in recognition of our strong partnership with the community, is able to present scholarship awards to graduating high school seniors from our town. These students have demonstrated both academic achievement and a strong record of community service. The PBA recognizes the dedication of these young adults as displayed by their volunteer work in charitable and community service organizations. This year's Clarkstown PBA Scholarship Award winners are Sarah Ferraro, Kelly Hallinan, and Scott Orser. In September 1973, James J. Doyle was sworn in as a Clarkstown police officer and began a long and distinguished career. Jim recognized the importance of protecting children and championing the cause that most support the youth of our community. He was dedicated to protecting and serving children through our department's Juvenile Aid Bureau. Even after moving on to other assignments, Jim looked back on this time in juvenile aid as his most significant long-term contribution to the department. After Jim's passing in 2005, his wife Rosemary and his son Michael organized and established the J.J. Doyle Memorial Golf Outing. Proceeds from the outing are used exclusively to fund scholarships for local students. Jimmy loved the Clarkstown Police Department and considered it his second family. He would surely have been proud of the young adults being recognized here today. This year's recipients of the Detective Sergeant James J. Doyle Memorial Scholarship Awards are Brendan Berrigan, Kevin Burke, Amanda Gorski, Kyle Woolley, and Stephanie Woolley. Congratulations. There is one more family we would like to mention today, and they are the McCruddens. Terry and Chris McCrudden were both veteran Clarkstown police officers and brothers who passed away at young ages. The Clarkstown Police Department suffered along with the McCrudden family during this tragic time. The McCruddens, however, did not wallow in their sorrow. Instead, they decided to celebrate the lives of Terry and Chris by holding a golf outing with proceeds being donated to the Clarkstown PBA Scholarship Fund. We would like to thank the McCruddens for their generosity to the youth of the town of Clarkstown. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for attending this morning rather. I know there was a change of plans, bringing it inside due to yesterday's inclement weather. So we needed a lot of help making that happen. So I'd just like to thank our maintenance workers and our explorers and our current recruits for making it all happen with the relocation. So thank you guys for that. As a reminder, at 11 o'clock today, the county memorial will be taking place over at the courthouse lawn. So everybody here is encouraged, if they have the time of the day, to attend that if you would like. In the lobby here, we'll have refreshments, muffins, bagels, coffee, and the like. So everybody here is invited to partake in that immediately following our ceremony. Again, congratulations to all of our award winners this year, and thank you for everyone for coming out for this special day.